Okay, we want to continue with our analysis of the prophetic symbols connected with the book of Ezra 7:9. And at least we had handled the symbols connected with the biblical references of the first day of the first month, first day of the fifth month, and 10th day of the seventh month. Now we had come to a point where we were dealing with these following symbols. We have the first day of the first month, then we have the 30th day of the fourth month, then first of the fifth, 10th of the seventh, and 5th of the fourth. And then what we feel that April 19th, July 21st, then this was August the 14th, August the 16th, and this one is October 22. So we showed that this history from April 19th to August 14th of 1844 is symbolized by the number 120. Also the number 4. Then we have this history being symbolized by the number 70 and the number what? 3. So yesterday we had dealt with the first number 120 in relation to Millerite history, and we handled the number 120 dealing with the time period in which Noah is building the ark and at the same time he's doing what? Preaching. Okay? We identified that Noah is a prophetic symbol of the Millerites and the work they were doing from the first day of the first month, which was April 19th of 1844, to the 30th day of the fourth month, which was August 14th of 1844. In this history, they were giving a message to a class of people in this particular what? History, and we said the symbol to represent to the class privileged to hear the message in this history are the what? The priests. Okay? They are symbolized by the priests. Then we said when we come to the end of the 120, Noah is going to shift his focus from this class of people into the animals that are making a procession to the ark. Okay? Clean animals and clean what? Animals. Clean animals by 7 and clean animals by what? By 2. And we showed that the symbol of clean animals represents God's people. Okay? And clean animals represent what? The Gentiles. And we did pick this up from the book of Acts 10, where Peter is given a vision that now God had broken the walls of partition that separated Jew from what? Gentile. It was time for the Jews to carry a gospel message to who? To the Gentiles. So we showed that in this history from here to here, the Millerites began to give the midnight cry message, and they were giving this midnight cry message to the Protestant what? Churches, and those faithfuls who left those churches, who are represented as the number 50,000 in the book Great Controversy, represent the clean animals that enter the ark by what? By 7s. Okay? But we also showed that this period also marked where the Millerites began to have initial interactions with the world. Okay? But we know before they can begin to give a message to the world, God is going to prepare them by helping them understand the message of what angel? The third angel. They put this tool in place, the 1850 church, in order to begin proclaiming a gospel message to the world, represented by the unclean what? animals. So we continue. Today, let's pick up another number 120 from the book of 2 Chronicles. Let's go to the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 5. 2 Chronicles 5. Second Chronicles chapter 5, and I want us to begin to read. We'll read verse 1 to 3, then we'll skip to verse 11 through 14. Verse 1 says, Thus all the work that Solomon made for the house of the Lord was finished, and Solomon brought in all the things that David his father had dedicated, and the silver, and the gold, and all the instruments put he among the treasuries of the house of what? So what is being dealt with is that Solomon has finished up the work of setting up the permanent temple, okay? Once he's done that work, he's going to bring all the instruments that his father David in order to be brought into what? Into the house of the what? Verse 2, Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is what? Zion. Wherefore all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto the king in the feast, which was the seventh what? Seventh month. Let's come down to verse 11. And it came to pass when the priests were come out of the holy place. So the priests are going to go to the holy place of the sanctuary. And when they come out, what happened? For all the priests that were present were sanctified and did not then wait by what? By course. Now these priests who are coming, what is their state or their experience? They are sanctified people. Are we understanding that? Now these priests who are sanctified are coming up to the dedication of the temple. Are you understanding? Then verse 12, also the Levites, which were the singers, all of them of Asaph, of Haman, of Jeduthun, with their sons and their brethren, being arrayed in white what? Linen. So it's not only that we have the priests who are sanctified, but also which class is mentioned? The Levites. And how are they clothed? White linen. Okay? Now we know that in the literal story this was literal, okay? But when we are making an application to the history of the military, it becomes what? Symbolic. Having cymbals and psalteries and harps, stood at the east end of the altar, with them 120 what? Priests sounding with what? So how many priests were there? 120 priests. What do they have? Trumpets. And what are they doing with those trumpets? They are sounding those what? Trumpets. Then we'll finish, then we make application. It came to pass as the trumpeters and the singers were as one, to make one sound to be heard in praising and thanking the Lord. So how many priests were there? 120. So we have the Levites and the priests. So there are many people, but when they sound with their trumpets, how many sounds are heard? 120 sounds? One sound, okay? To make one sound to be heard in praising and thanksgiving. And when they lifted up their voice with the trumpets and cymbals and instruments of music, and praised the Lord, saying, For he is good, for his mercy endureth forever, that then the house was filled with what? With a cloud, even the house of who? So the priests could not stand to minister by reason of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord had filled the what? So what is the cloud that filled the house? The glory of the what? The Lord. So let's come and make an application to that. So we have read the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 5. We read verse 1 to 3. Then we skip to verse 11 through what? 14. And what we find here is that we find priests and what? Levites. Now these ones are clothed in what? In white? White linen. And they have the instruments of music, okay? Then these ones are sanctified, but what do they have in their hands? They have trumpets, okay? Now let's transfer this history, bring it to this history, because what key allows us to connect this history to the history of the Millerites in the story that we have read? What key allows us to connect that story to the history of the Millerites? How many priests are there? Do we have a number 120 here? So we'll place them here at the midnight cry, okay? So then we'll take this priest and these Levites, we have to make an application of them, okay? So these priests, you know that they have trumpets and they are sanctified. What does a trumpet symbolize in scripture? A message, okay? The trumpet signifies what? So the trumpet is a symbol of a message. I will not go to prove that. But we know that the trumpet is a symbol of what? For example, in the book of Isaiah 58:1, it says, cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like what? A trumpet. We know that is dealing with the message, okay? When you go to Revelation 1, when John hears the voice of Christ, it's a voice as what? As a trumpet. But we know that's a message that Christ was doing what? Giving to who? To John. So this trumpet that these priests are lifting, one sanctified, represents what? A message. Let's come to this history specifically. Which message do they have here? Which message do they have? Because Sino is going to come with the midnight cry message, and according to what we read from dates, how many Millerites adopted and accepted that message? All the leading teachers accepted that message, okay? Yes. Now when they accepted that message, what did they begin to do? They began to sound that message through the United what? States. Now how many messages were they giving? Many or one? So their voice was as how many voices? Do we see this priest having one voice? Yes. So this trumpet symbolizes the midnight cry what? Message. But who were giving this midnight cry message? The Millerites. Are we understanding that? Now they were giving this midnight cry message to the Protestant churches in the United what? States. And what did that cause to these churches? 50,000 did what? Withdrew from those what? And those 50,000 we are calling them the what? And they are identifying as being dressed in what? So are they also a righteous people? Yes. Righteous people also separate from those churches and join up with the Millerites, and they become how many? One. Are we seeing that? Yes. So this is what is illustrated. But we are shown that when these priests do this, because here they are dedicating the house of the Lord, the temple that Solomon built, okay? Now the temple that Solomon built symbolizes what temple in this history? The Millerite temple. Are you understanding? Do we know that the Millerite temple is a temple that God was building up in this history? Yes. Because later that temple becomes what temple? In fact, what was God raising in this history? Isn't it the Seventh-day Adventist church? Isn't our church a temple? So this is the temple that is going to be dedicated here at the midnight what? Cry. Are we saying that? Now with the dedication of that temple, what comes down? A cloud, and a cloud, we are told by the scripture, represent what? The glory of who? What is the glory of the Lord that descended upon the Millerites in this history? The outpouring of the Holy what? Spirit. Do we see that? Is the Holy Spirit a symbol of the glory of God? So we can see that here the Holy Spirit was poured out upon the Millerites, who are represented as the symbol of priests, carrying what? Trumpets, and a trumpet is a message giving the midnight cry what? Message, and this midnight cry message had an effect of calling a people from the Protestant churches who we call what? The Levites. Are we getting? What had that application? Have we understood? Yeah. Okay. So we'll move to the next 120. Now, we know the land of Sheba. Where is the land of Sheba? Huh? The land of Sheba is in Africa. Where? Specifically? Ethiopia. Okay? We know there is a queen that comes out of Ethiopia. Okay? Let's go to the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 9 verses 8 and 9. Okay? Isaac, I hope you have got this application, okay? Did you get it? Alright, repeat. Okay. We are saying, as we have read in this 2 Chronicles chapter 5 verse 1 to 3, Isaac, that we have priests and we have Levites. These priests are sanctified and they are 120 in number. I think that. And they are carrying trumpets. And we were told when they sounded with their trumpets, their voices were not 120 voices but one voice. And these Levites and their singing instruments. So as they did all that they did, they were all done what? They were all united. But we have seen that the trumpet is a symbol of what? Now this story, we know that it has to have a connection to Millerite history because of what number? And this number 120 brings us to where? August 14th, 15th, and we know that within the confines of the camp meeting held in Exeter. Okay? And in that camp meeting held in Exeter, in these 2 dates, who gave a message? Samuel Snow gave the Millerite what? Now how many Millerites accepted that message when he gave it to them? All of them accepted, the 3,000 in the encampment, okay? Now when they accepted, did they sit in calm expectancy? No. They began to proclaim that what? So how many messages were they bearing? One. Symbolized by the one voice in the book of 2nd Chronicles, okay? But these priests are the ones who are sounding these trumpets, but who are sounding that message in this history? The Millerites. So these priests become a symbol of who? Millerites, okay? But these Millerites, I want to give this midnight message to the Protestant churches in the United what? And the cause of that message is that 50,000 withdraw from those churches. The 50,000 who come out of those churches are represented by the symbol of the what? But how are they clothed? What is white linen a symbol of? It's a righteous people. But this all is happening under the context of the dedicating of Solomon's temple. But Solomon's temple in this history symbolizes the Millerite temple that God was building. Now when that temple is dedicated, the cloud of the Lord comes and rests upon that temple. The cloud of the Lord, we are told, is the glory of the Lord, and the glory of the Lord in this history specifically is the outpouring of the Holy Spirit that occurred in Exeter camp meeting upon the Millerites. Okay? So now we go to the Queen of Sheba. We said 2nd Chronicles. 2nd Chronicles chapter 9 verses 8 through 9. We get some things. It reads, now, I want us to read from verse 8. It says, "Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighted in this to set thee on his throne, to be king for the Lord thy God, because thy God loved Israel, to establish them forever. Therefore made he thee king over them, to do what? Judgment and she," that is the Queen of Sheba, "gave the king 120 talents of what? And of spices, great abundance, and precious stones. Neither was there any such spice as the Queen of Sheba gave King what? King Solomon." So here we find the Queen of Sheba is bringing an offering to the King of Israel, Solomon. Okay? So here we have King Solomon, and we have the Queen of what?
Sheba.
The Queen of Sheba. And what is she going to do? She's going to give what? Presents, 120 what? Specifically talents of what? Gold. So then we know that this story here has a connection to this history of the Millerites because of the number 120, okay?
Yes.
But let's come to the Queen of Sheba. The Queen of Sheba is a woman, okay?
Yeah.
What does a woman stand for in scripture? A church. Okay? If we have the Queen of Sheba as a church, who marries the church?
Christ.
Who is the husband to the church? So Solomon stands for who? For Christ. Are we saying that?
Yes.
But what is this church bringing to Christ?
120.
An offering of 120 talents of what? So we are saying this symbol of 120 connected with this history, okay? But we want to understand specifically what is this talent that the queen brings to who? To the King Solomon. So we come to this history of the Millerites. Therefore we are saying King Solomon in this history stands for who?
Christ.
For Christ, okay? But the Queen of Sheba stands for who? The Church of God in that what? In that history. For those who have been here, we have been showing that one church is being divorced, another one is being done what? Married, and the one that is married is the Queen of what? Sheba, and the Queen of Sheba symbolizes who? The Millerite temple. Are we understanding? What are being married by who? By Christ. But this church here, at this point, it's bringing an offering to Christ of 120 talents of what? Let's understand what is that offering that is being brought to Christ. The book of Malachi. Malachi 3. Let's read verse 2. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's what? Soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of what? Levi, and purge them as what? Gold. So the sons of Levi are compared to what? Gold. So we see that the sons of Levi are compared to gold. Are we seeing that? Then it says, and silver, that they may offer unto him the Lord an offering in what? Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of what? And as in his former what? So we are saying the sons of Levi are compared to what? To gold. But we know when it comes to the sons of Levi, how many classes do we have within the sons of Levi? 2. Priest and what? Levites. But when you come to this case here, the Queen of Sheba stands for what class of the sons of Levi? Huh? The priest. Always be careful in giving your answers. These are the what? The priests. But these priests are bringing what? An offering of gold, which is still the sons of what? So what is this offering that the priests are bringing to the Lord? Huh? The Levites. Are we saying that? So the offering that they are bringing to the Lord are the what? The Levites. But you're saying the Levites represent who? Those people who left the Protestant what? Churches. So as they are calling out those people, that is the offering that they are to present to the Lord, represented by this 120 what? Talents of gold given by the Queen of Sheba to who? To King Solomon. So the people who leave those churches are the offering, the meal and the priests are to present before Christ. Do we get the point? Are we getting the point? Then okay, let's turn to, so we have dealt with, no, we have not dealt with it. Let's turn to the prophet of the Lord Moses. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 34. Deuteronomy 34. Deuteronomy 34 verse 7 through 10. Deuteronomy 34. Yeah? Amen. So 34 verses 7 through 10. It says, and Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes was not dim, nor his natural force do not abated. So I want us to note the important things that we need to define. The book of Deuteronomy 34 verses 7 through 10, we are getting that Moses dies at the age of how many years? Dies at 120 years. It continues to say, and the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab. How many days? 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses were ended. And Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands upon him, and the children of Israel hearkened unto him, and did as the Lord commanded. And there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto whom the Lord knew face to what? Face to face. So Moses is going to do what? To die at the age of what? 120 years. Are we getting that? So we know that this number 120 then becomes a symbol that is going to connect the death of Moses to the history of the Millerites. Because you have a number 120 going from the first day of the first month to the 30th day of the fourth month. Are we understanding? So therefore the death of Moses will be marked here on the 30th day of the what? Fourth month, which is August what? 14th. But did we see another leader who died this same time? Which leader was that? Aaron. When did Aaron die? On the first day of the 5th? Do we see that Aaron is also dying here on August 15th? So these two leaders die what? So we also saw that Aaron died at the first day of the 5th month, which is this time. So the death of Aaron and Moses, we know that Aaron dies at what age? 123. This dies at 120. But you see, prophetically, we are allowed to connect those two deaths together, okay? Yes. Why? Because this happens when? On the first day of the 5th? And this happens after how long? 120 years. So prophecy allows us to connect those two deaths. But we know that Aaron was a leader, but what type of leader? A religious? Do you know that he was a religious leader? This was a leader, but what kind of leader? A political leader. So this one was serving as a political leader, judge, and an expounder of the law. This one was what? A religious leader. So we see these two leaders dying at the same what? The same time. But we know when this one dies, who replaces him? Joshua. And we are told what has happened to Joshua is filled with the what? The holy what? But who replaces this one? Eliezer. And we showed that Eliezer is an equal name to a name in the New Testament, which is what? And which means what? God's helper. And who is God's helper? So we know that there is an aspect of the Holy Spirit, there is an aspect of the Holy what? Spirit. So we're asking ourselves that these two leaders who die, who do they represent? We show that in this history, who was God's church? Protestant churches. Okay? Therefore, these two leaders will represent the leaders of what? The Protestant what? But these two new leaders will represent who? The leaders of the new church that God has done, what has built. And what is the new church of God in this history? The Millerites, okay? So Joshua and Eliezer represent who? The leadership of the church raised up by Christ, which the Millerites what? Temple. And what is identified with these two leaders? The aspect of the Holy Spirit is being done what? Identified here when they replace these two leaders. Was there an outpouring of the Holy Spirit here? Was there an outpouring of the Holy Spirit? We showed the reason why it compares the miracle with what? Pentecost. Was there an outpouring of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost? So these two leaders represent when God cuts off the leaders of the Protestant what? Churches and institutes a new leadership. And who is that new leadership? Joshua and Eliezer, to act both as the political and religious leaders of God's people. Are we getting the point? Are we got to the point? So, I want to move quite quickly so that we can begin to make application in our history, because if we fail to do that, our studies will be incomplete. If you turn to page 93, there is a quotation. That quotation is from Science of, page 93. Quotation from the Science of the Times. So it's going to deal with the history of Moses. Abraham, sorry. It says, Abraham was how many years old? 120 years when this terrible and startling command came to him. What is this relevant called this terrible and startling command? Huh? The text to slay who? Isaac. Huh? The test to slay Isaac. You'll go and read the rest of the passages. You'll see that this is the test. In a vision of the night, he was to travel 3 days' journey and will have ample time for reflection. 50 years previous, at the divine command, he had left father and mother, relatives and friends, and had become a pilgrim and a stranger in what? Land that was not what? Was not his. So we see here that Abraham is an age of how many years? At 120 years, And a test is coming to him, and the test to do what? To slay who? Isaac as a sacrifice unto who? Unto the Lord. And he is required to travel to a place to offer Isaac. How long does he travel to get to that place?
3 days.
So we know that connected with the number 120 is how many days? Do we see that? So we have to show that connected with this number 120 is how many days? 3 days. Okay? But we know the number 120 is a symbol of the period from the first day of the first month to the 30th day of the fourth what? Month. But what does these 3 days stand for? And these are the 3 messages of Revelation 14.
Yes.
It stands for everlasting what? Everlasting gospel. But what is the everlasting gospel designed to do upon us? To test. Okay? Isn't the everlasting gospel a test that God brings to us? So, but do we see a test coming to Abraham? A test to do what? To offer Isaac. Does he fail or pass the test? But we know this was the way Ellen White says that, this was the terrible and startling what? Command. Therefore, the testing process that comes to the Millerites from this history to the 30th day of the 4th month was a startling test which Ellen White compares with the test that comes to who? To Abraham to slay who? To slay Isaac. So this is the test of the everlasting what? Gospel. So we'll then come to see that in this history, you can see that connected with this number 120 is that the test of the everlasting gospel is done what? Is accomplished, and that takes how many steps? 1, 2, 3 steps. So therefore Abraham becomes a symbol of the what? The Millerites. And the test that comes to him represents the test that comes to who? To the Millerites. And what test comes to the Millerites? The test of the everlasting what? Gospel. 3 messages. So then in the book of Daniel chapter 6, we are not going to read. It has also 120 princes and 3 presidents. Do we know that story? We have 120 princes and 3 what? Presidents. And who is the first of those presidents? Daniel. Okay? So again, what do we see from Daniel 6? That in the book of Daniel 6 again, the number 120 is going to be tied with what number? The number 3. But what do we find the 120 princes and the 2 presidents doing against Daniel? They conspire, rebel against him, okay? So when we come to this history, who do you think Daniel is symbolizing? Now let me ask a question. Do we have Daniel in this history? Who is Daniel in that history? How do you know that the Millerites? Are they bearing a message from the book of Daniel? So those who bear the message from the book of Daniel must be what? Be the Daniel in the book of Daniel 6, okay? But we have a rebellion steered and geared against Daniel by the 2 presidents and the 120 princes, okay? Now who are rebelling and ridiculing the Millerites in this history? Protestants. So you see that those 2 presidents and the 120 princes represent the presidents who begin to ridicule and rebel against the Millerites in this what? In this history of 120. But in that history, in reality, what was happening? A testing process was happening. Are we seeing that? Then let's turn to the book of John. Now, John, let me just write this. We are not going to read. John 4, verses 31 to verse 41. Now, what does this John speak about? It speaks how many months? It speaks about how many months? And what does the Bible specifically say concerning the 4 months? That there are 4 months to what? We don't know that story. There are 4 months to what? Okay, let's stand there and read. Verse 35. Could you read?
Say not ye 4 months, and then cometh harvest, Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white, already to harvest. And he that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal, that both he that soweth and he that reapeth may rejoice together.
So, okay, the disciples understood that after 4 months, what do we come to? So when you come to this point here, what is happening? Harvest, okay? But you understand that the 4 months in the history of the Millerites take us from the first day of the first month to what? To the 30th day of the 4th month, which was August what? 14th. So what do we expect to be happening here? An harvest. Who are being harvested? Millerites 3. So if the Millerites were being harvested, who was harvesting? Huh? Who are the harvesters in this history? The Millerites. Who are they harvesting? The Levites. Okay? But what angel deals with harvest? The third, okay? So you can see aspects of the third angel in this history. Are we seeing that? Because it's the angel deals with what? With harvest. Therefore, the Millerites were serving the capacity of what? Because the third angel, is he a literal angel from heaven?
No.
Who is the third angel? Human beings. So these Millerites were what in this history? They were the third angel. And what do they have in their hand? A sickle. And what are they doing with that sickle? They are harvesting. What is the sickle that they used to harvest in that history? The message of the midnight cry. Are we seeing that? So they are doing a work of what? Harvest. Okay. Now, did we hear what he read? That the disciples were telling Christ, they are yet 4 months, and then cometh what? So after 4 months, they understood what comes. But Christ is like he's going to rebuke their understanding by telling them what? Say not that there are 4 months, then cometh harvest. For look out, the fields are already what? Ripe. Okay? But now the point we want to pick up is that the Bible is giving us this analogy of after 4 months cometh the what? But we have understood that in our application, 4 months take us from April 19th to August 14th. First of the first to the 30th of the what? The 4th, because 4 months is the same as how many days? 120. Do you understand that, ma'am? Because if you take a biblical month of 30 days times 4, what do you get? 120. So you come to what? To harvest. So when you come to this history, there is a harvest that is going to occur. Who are doing that harvest? The Millerites. Who are they harvesting? They are harvesting a class from the Protestant churches, but those classes symbolized by what? By the Levites. Are we seeing that? So you're saying the Millerites here, they are what angel? The third angel, because it's the angel who does what? Harvesting. Are we seeing that? So the Millerites here are reaping or harvesting, the Levites, the honest-hearted, out of the Protestant what? Churches. So we'll turn to the book of Acts 1:15. Acts 1:15. Acts 1:15 says, and in those days Peter stood up in the midst of the disciples, and the number of them together were how many? 100. So in Acts 1:15 we have the number what? So we have the number 120. Now we know that if we have the number 120, then this story has to have a connection to the history of the what? Millerites. Now why is Peter standing in the midst of them and speaking? Because what does he want this 120 to engage in? To do a work of choosing someone to do who? To replace who? Judas. Are we understanding? So 120 are meeting to replace who? Judas. Now, when you come to that 120, so that if we have this number 120, I want us to apply it in the very basic level. This 120 brings us to where? To the 30th day of the 4th month, and Peter plus the 120 are standing there to replace who? Judas. Sindio? Now, Which people are slotted for that chance? How many people are slotted for that chance? 2. Who and who? Matthias and Matthias or Matthias? Matthias and Joseph. Matthias is one slot, and who is the other slot? Joseph. But when you notice, when you go to the book of Acts, this Joseph, what happens? 3 of his names are given. Do you understand that? What are 3 of his names given in that verse? He's called Joseph, Justus, and who? Barsabbas. Barsabbas. Okay? Now when you look at the meaning of these words, what does this mean? Gift of God. But I want us to analyze those 2 names. The word Joseph means to add. Okay? This Joseph means to do what? To add. But this word Joseph is the name, in what language? In Hebrew. When you come to Justus means just, but it's a word from which language? Latin. When you come to Barsabbas, it means son of an army, but it's what? Chaldee. Okay, so they have these 2 slots to choose from. But Matthias means what? Gift of. But you see, this guy is having 3 names from different languages, okay? Hebrew, Latin, and Chaldee. Now, Hebrew was a language of which people? The Jews, Israelites, who were God's people, okay? Were they an unholy seed or a holy seed? So this is a symbol of what? The holy what? Holy seed. But holy seed stands for what? For truth. And God's people, the depositories of God's truth. So then they stand for the truth. Because they are the guardians of that truth. So they become symbols of what? If you remember, we were saying, who cut the stone from the mountain to be used in building a temple? What angel? We did that yesterday. First angel. Okay? So we said the first angel can be a symbol of what? The truth, but it also can be a symbol of what? The messengers who are carrying that truth. Okay? So the first angel becomes a symbol of both human beings and truth. Are we getting that? So when you come to this history here, the holy seed, they become a symbol of God's people, but also a symbol of what? Because a seed stands for what in the Bible? For the word of God, truth, okay? But let's come to Latin. Latin was the language of which people? Romans. Is Rome a friend to God's people or an enemy of God's people? So it's an unholy seed, okay? Unholy seed, which stands for what? Error. Are we seeing that? Let's come to Chaldee. Chaldee was the language of which came a question on the number 120. On the first day of the first month, the first day of the 5th month, you'll do what? You'll ask. But let's try and deal with some of the 70s in this history, okay? Okay? So let's try and deal with the number what? 70. So we have a number 70 here. Let's come to the book of Matthew, chapter 10. Matthew 10. Now those ones are not part of our notes. Matthew 10 verse 5. Matthew 10 verse 5, you write it. It reads, "These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles and into the city of the what? The Samaritan enter ye what? But go rather to what? To the lost sheep of the house of what? And as ye go, preach, saying, The kingdom of heaven is at what? Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils, freely you have received and freely do what? Give." So here the Bible is dealing with the what? The 12. Are we seeing that? And you see that the 12 are being given a commission by Christ of going to seek for who? The lost sheep in the house of what? Israel. But is the number 12 a factor of 120? Number 12 is a tenth of 120. Are we seeing that? So it is therefore a factor of 120. So therefore this number 12, Isaac, we can fit it in this history here. Are we seeing that? So we can bring, so if we have first of first, 30th of the 4th, so we can have here the number what? This is number 12. So this 12 become a symbol of the people doing our work in this history, okay? Then we come, so these 12 are being given a commission to go and seek the lost sheep of the house of what? Israel. But we know that Christ is going to send other disciples. How many now? 70. Where are they found? Where is that found? Luke? 10. Verse? After these things, the Lord appointed other how many? So we have 70. Do we see that? So we have 12 and what? 70. Okay, Isaac? And send them 2 and 2 by his face into every city place, whither himself will do what? Therefore say ye unto them, the harvest is truly great, but the laborers are what? Pray ye therefore the Lord of harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his what? Go your ways, behold, I send you forth as lambs among wolves. Carry neither purse nor skip nor shoe, and salute no what? No man. So you see, what do we notice? We notice one thing that, Isaac, I want you to notice one thing. The commission given to the 70 is different from the commission given to the 12. Are we seeing that? When the 12 are given a commission, there are some cities they are restricted not to go to. But these ones are told to go to every city which afterward Christ will visit. Are you seeing that? They are not to go to every city that Christ will afterward visit, but these ones are restricted as to what cities to visit with their gospel what? Message. Okay? Now the cities specifically they are told not to go to is the cities of Samaria and of the Gentiles, okay? But when you come to this 70, they are allowed to go to those cities. Of the Gentiles of what? Samaria. Are we getting that? So we know that so this will be 10th of the 7th. Therefore we know that this story is a story concerning this history of the Millerites, okay? Therefore this 12 here stands for who? This 12 stand for who in this history? Stand for who? A number cannot be referred as who? Okay, they stand for what? For the Millerites. Are we seeing that? And they are given a commission. What is the work of the Millerites in this history? To seek the lost sheep of the house of what? Who is the house of Israel in this history? Protestant churches. Are we seeing that? But later going to commission other 70. Now these 70 here represent who? The Levites. Are we seeing that? So therefore these are the priests who we are calling at this context the Millerites. And these are the Levites who we are calling the what? The 50,000 who lead the churches, okay? But now when they are sent, their commission is different from this one, okay? What does that show you? That at this point, God's people are beginning to have initial interactions with the people of the world, okay? Whatever that means to you, okay? And did we see that happening here? From the ark of Noah, we see which animal coming to the ark and which animals? Clean and unclean. We see that God's people are coming to begin to have interaction with the people of the world. But they don't begin to preach to them until they come to 1850 when they have that tool to go and begin evangelizing to them. Are we understanding? So we have this 12 and what? Now I want to lay another story here. Mission of the 70 is that they are allowed to go to every city which Christ will afterward visit. They are not restricted to cities to go like these 12. Now we are not reading. Another story I want to lay over this. I don't know if it's 1 Kings 18 or 17. We know that there is a prophet who is saying, I'm the only one remaining. Who is that prophet? So how many is he? He's only one, okay? But what is the Lord telling? So where are you going to put 7,000? Here or here? Here we have 7,000. Do you see that? So we have one and what? 70 or 7,000? We have 1 and 7,000, but 7,000 is a factor of what? 70. Do we see that? So therefore Elijah the prophet symbolizes the Millerites. Are we seeing that? The 7,000 represent the honest in the Protestant churches who are not bowed their knee to who? To Baal, who will hear a message from the Millerites and leave those churches and join Elijah. Are we seeing that? Are we seeing that? Yes. But we know that one of these 7,000 that here is counted when you go to the book Prophets and Kings was which prophet? Elisha. Okay? Now when you come to this point here, what's going to happen to Elijah? He's going to leave for heaven. Are we seeing that? And what does he leave upon Elisha? A double portion of the Spirit of God. They get a double portion of the Spirit in this history. Are we seeing that? So Elisha becomes a symbol of these people who get a double portion of the Spirit of God from the Millerites, okay? Do they get some compelling power? What is the double portion? Is the message of the what? The midnight cry. Are you getting that? So you could line up many 70s and 120s. Are we seeing that? So I don't want to continue making. So also go and look for more 70s in the Bible, Shadrach, and try to make application to this history of the what? The Millerites. Okay? So, want to transition now to what? The history of what? Now this concerns me and you. So we need to clearly and keenly evaluate whether the analysis of these symbols will be a fair representation in connection to what? To this history of the what? Millerites. So we said this was what here in our history? In our history. April 19th is not our history. And this one? Midnight cry, really? Midnight, okay? This one here, we will just address it at the what? Midnight cry. And this one here, address it as what? Sunday law. So, we'll do the bit we can do now, and we continue what? Tomorrow. So let's begin with the first day of the first what? First month. So we want to begin with 9/11 and try to make some applications. So the very first reference we want to take is what? Ezra 7:9. We have the first day of the first what? Month. And what things happen in that first day of the first month? Ezra leaves what? Leaves Babylon. Okay? Now, the next thing that happens is what? There is a disappointment. Then, so there is a tarrying time that begins. Then the Levites are done what? The Levites are called out of where? Out of Babylon. Yeah? So these Levites who come back around many? 40, okay? And here we have also what? 220. When you have 220 Nethinim who come out. Okay? So let's try and make this application and end our study. So we know that Ezra leaving Babylon is symbolizing what angel? Second angel. Are we seeing that? Then we have a disappointment, we have a tarrying time. Now, let's come here. We know that on April 19th of 1844, there is an angel who descended, okay? Yes. What angel? Second angel, and he has a writing in his what? He has a writing in his hand. So we are saying this is the second what? Second angel. But for those who remember, when we were doing the reform lines, we showed that on 9/11, two waymarks of the Millerite history converge. Okay? What waymark and what waymark? So this waymark converges there, but also what do we have? The empowerment of the first angel, which occurs when? August 11 of 1840 also comes where? There, but August 11, 1840 in Millerite history was dealing with the empowerment of what message? First angels what? So what do you expect them to happen to the first angel at 9/11? So it's the empowerment. But also what do you expect to happen to the second angel? But we know which angel descended at 9/11. Angel of Revelation 18 verses 1 to what? 3. Now when you read the spirit of prophecy, 2 SM 116 to 118, she says that this angel who descends comes to repeat the message of what angel? Second angel's message, okay? Now even before we went to this quotation last time when we were having our classes, we did prove direct from the Bible that you can show that verse 1 of Revelation 18 is what angel? First angel. Verse 23 is what angel? Second angel. So the first angel is empowered and the second angel does what? Arrives, okay? Now on the first day of the first month, Ezra does what? Leaves Babylon, and we are saying this is a symbol of the second angel because it's the second angel that calls people out of what? Babylon. Did we have a second angel at 9/11? Did we have a second angel at 9/11? Yes. Therefore was this fulfilled at 9/11? Yes. Are we seeing that? But with the arrival of the second angel in Millerite history, it marked the beginning of what? Tarrying. Therefore, when did our tarrying time begin when we come to the end of the world? So 9/11 also marks the beginning of the what? Tarrying time. Are we okay? So this is the beginning of the tarrying time. Now, we'll deal with the Levites and the 220 what? Nethinims. Now, in my next classes, I'll be able to explain who were Nethinims. But if you want to understand who Nethinims were, you go and read the book of Joshua chapter 9. Joshua chapter 9, the whole of it. It will explain who Nethinims were. Now, if I was to give a brief history of the Nethinims, is that Joshua was the one who was responsible for destroying the tribes in what country? In Canaan, to allow the children of Israel to dwell in Canaan because it was promised to them, okay? Now all the kings of the lands about and in Canaan heard how the Lord was working mightily with these people Israel, okay? Now there is one of the tribes that was living in Canaan called the Gibeonites. They knew directly that Joshua would come and destroy them because the Lord was what? They were just a 3 days walk from where Joshua was. The next 3 days he was going to destroy them, okay? What they did, they looked for very old clothes, sacks, and very old shoes. They came with their donkeys to Joshua and told them they have come from a very far country. And they asked Joshua to make a covenant with them that when it comes to their land, he cannot destroy them. So they made a covenant, Joshua agreed with them, okay? After only 3 days, he comes and finds that these people were only near him. But because he had made a covenant, he could not break that covenant. So what he did, he told them, now because of the covenant we made, from today, you'll be servants in the house of the Lord, the sanctuary. You'll be responsible for looking for firewood and water. So the Nethinims, from that day onward, they became servants in the sanctuary of the Lord. But remember, they were not Israelites. They were Gentiles. Are we understanding? Yes. So this here symbolizes Gentiles. But these people here is a class of the tribe of Levi, okay? Who are working in the courtyard of the temple. So they are still God's people. Okay? But we know Ezra was what? A priest. Are we saying that? So Ezra is a priest. So here we have how many classes? Priests, Levites, and what? Nethinims. But Nethinims are what? The world. Are we saying that? So when we come to 9/11, we have all these three classes. 9/11 happens. Is 9/11 a prophetic event? Is it a prophetic event? Now, to the people of the world, realize the significance of that event. But did everyone in the world see that event? But did they realize the significance of that event? No. Now we'll see also that the believers never also recognize the seriousness of that event, which people are allowed by God and privileged to understand the significance of this event? The priests. Okay? So these three classes here represent the three groups of people to be tested in our history by the medium of the everlasting what? Gospel, but they are to be tested in order. Beginning with the people who realize the significance of this event. Who are those? The priests, then followed by who? The Levites, then followed by who? The world. So all the people to be tested were here, but only the class to begin to be tested understood the significance of this event. Are you seeing that? What are the what? The priests. So do we understand the significance of 9/11? Yes, you are a priest. And that dot was saying how much time is remaining for your probation to close. Our dear Father in heaven, we thank you for your goodness and mercy. We thank you for the 70 souls gathered in this room. To listen to your word that you are giving to your people at the end of the world. Our probation is about to close, but as Brother Boaz taught, if we submit our wills to your will, that you will be able in a short while to accomplish the mystery of godliness in us, that at the end of the day, we may be Elijah, we may be Noah, and we may be Joshua and Ezra, who will do our work on planet Earth and finish it, that we may go home soon. I pray for all the families represented. It is possible that there are husbands here without their wives and their children. Please may you work upon the hearts of those children and their wives, that they may also be part and parcel of this movement. There are also women here who it's possible that their husbands and children are not here. They use them as mediums to reach those who are lacking in this. I pray for the youth in this meeting, that you may lead and guide them. I pray for the three leaders who organized this meeting, Brother Boaz, Brother Isaac, and Brother Nyamoya, that you may bless them in a special way, and besides also bless their families. I pray for Brother Robert, who left Nairobi, to come, that we may hold one another's hand as we do this work together. May you bless and guide him. And as he will continue with your labors, may you not leave him to be lost, but may he be saved and enter into glory. Pray for myself. I pray for each and everyone in this encampment. Please, I pray that we may all struggle to understand this message, for we know that time is short, that we may go with bitter hearts and tears to tell our Seventh-day Adventists how short time we have and our probation is about to close, that they may listen to this message and many of them may be saved. We pray for our brother Nyangeno, who provided a facility for us to do this. We know at the end of the world this will be more and more. May you bless his family, his 4 children and his wife, that they may also be beneficiaries of this light that is given by the angel of Revelation 18:1-3. May you continue to lead us. We thank you so much for the 10 days we have seen your hand and how you have led us. More so, even we in KISS, we have seen your hand, how you could bring people to this movement. Please help them to be grounded and settled, that they may defend this faith. Continue being with us. We have prayed in faith in Jesus' name.